Okay, well, it is 9:30 on Friday, April 7th, 9:30 a.m. So I'd like to call to order the special meeting of the Lancaster Select Board at that time and date. I will start by reminding folks that this is being recorded, and I don't see the folks from Sterling-Lancaster Commercial Television, but at least it's being recorded and perhaps rebroadcast by them at another point. I want to start with a roll call. Ms. Turner.
I'm here.
Mr. Allison.
Here.
Mr. Kerrigan's here. All right. We have a grand total of one real item on the agenda, which is to review and act on sections 285 to 287 of the Commonwealth's Session Law Acts of 2004. We discussed this at our meeting earlier in the week. We all received the language for the vote prior to that council was required to write, which we discovered during our work. Kate is now putting that up on the screen for everybody, or not. Either way, one way or the other.
Unsuccessfully
Putting it up on the screen. Well, we all had a chance to see it.
There it is.
The process, of course, we're going to undertake is to adopt. Well, I believe we have. All right, can you take us through, Kate? I know there's a couple of votes that we need to take. So can you take us through?
Yep. Hold on. So the first thing that you would have to do is ensure that the fair and concise summary is acceptable, which is essentially these two paragraphs. Then the act requires that a statement of one sentence for yes and no be written by council and printed on the ballot. That would be this here, so that would be a separate motion. Then you all moved last meeting that I would be designated as the proponent and that Cheryl Garapi, our finance director, would be the principal author for the opposition. And so those have to be statements or paragraphs that are 250 words or less. So now what you need to do is determine a date that those need to be due. It has to be due no less than 14 days before the vote. And so given that we're on a tight timeline, that and it needs to be 7 days from this declaration, that would be Friday, April 21st. Of course, if the statements are received by Cheryl and I prior to that, you're more than welcome to act upon them. But you do need to vote to have Friday, April 21st be the due date on or before, and then the last would be to authorize me on behalf of the board to issue official notices to myself and to Cheryl, which were written earlier and Steve signed, and those would then be put today on file with the town clerk.
Sounds good. So we have a series of motions, but let's first, I know the board members received yesterday the top two paragraphs here on fair and concise summary. Does anyone have any questions about it? Again, legally, it was required to be drafted by town council. So town council did draft these, so they are compliant with the law, which to me passes all the smell tests that I need. So I guess I throw it to the board to see if they have any questions or comments.
No questions from me.
I think it looks like, a good basic summary. The question that I have that relates more to, well, I guess it impacts both, is it's my understanding that based on our regional agreement, that if 2 out of the 3 towns vote for the school budget, that we need to fund it regardless of our budget status. So, yes vote and a no vote, or it's a little bit different. So I guess it would say allows for the operations of the town government And if passed, the school department, but same thing with the no vote.
Well, except for a yes vote allows to operate the town budget and school budget. A no vote disapproves of both. So it doesn't, where do you see that it says anything to, I mean, I guess I'm confused as to why you think those are contradictory or.
It's not just that we could vote no. The town meeting or ballot could vote no. And we would, I guess you're right. I mean, we would disapprove the school budget, but we would still be responsible for it.
Not
Yeah,
if you don't have an appropriation.
If we don't have the appropriation, we can't be responsible for it.
You can't pay it.
Well, that's what
But I would say, I don't want us to get too
Thank
far
you.
afield.
Right.
What we're voting on this morning is these questions and these statements, and
Yep.
not the what if scenarios of the different results of town meeting and the 8th.
Okay, so we did, so the language is fine, but I do think that that's an important question that we should ask council.
You don't need to. If you don't have the appropriation, we can't pay the bill.
Right. So, but I don't want us to get too far afield. The first motion we need is to approve the first two paragraphs. If you don't have any questions about those two, I would entertain a motion.
Mr. Chair, if I may,
Sure.
I move pursuant to Lancaster's Special Act of 2004, Town of Lancaster Voter Information, to approve the fair and concise summary of question 1, proposition 2.5 override, as drafted by council per section 285 of said act, to read as follows, quote, GL chapter 59, 21C, otherwise known as proposition 2.5, limits the amount of revenue a city or town may raise from local property taxes each year to fund municipal operations. This amount is known as the annual levy limit. Proposition 2.5 allows a city or town to increase tax revenues above that limit with the approval of voters at an election. Here, question 1 seeks to increase the amount of property tax revenue Lancaster may raise in fiscal year 2024 by $1,200,000. The result is a permanent increase in taxing authority. The additional revenue will be used to fund the operating budgets of the school departments and the town government in fiscal year 24, end quote.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion on the motion.
None from me.
No, just as I had mentioned before, so that's, nope.
Okay, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Ms. Turner,
Aye.
Mr. Allison,
Aye.
Mr. Kerrigan, aye. So now, Kate, we have to approve the language of the yes vote on question 1 and the no vote on question 1. Yes?
Correct.
Do we do them separately or collectively?
You can do them collectively unless there's changes.
Do we have? I know we're
Mr. Chair, if I may, I can make the motion and then.
Oh, sure, and then we can discuss. Yes, go
Yeah.
ahead.
So I move pursuant to Lancaster Special Act of 2004, Town of Lancaster Voter Information, to approve the sown sentence statements regarding the effects of a yes/no vote on question 1, proposition 2.5 override for the inclusion on the May 8th, 2023 annual election ballot, and to allow the information to be distributed to the public in accordance with the 2004 Act. The statements shall read as follows. A yes vote on question 1 allows the operating budgets of the town government and school departments for fiscal year 2024 to be funded. A no vote on question 1 disapproves the operating budgets of the town government and the school departments for fiscal year 2024, end quote.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion on the motion.
None from me.
Nope.
Okay.
None.
All right. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Ms. Turner,
Aye.
Mr. Allison,
Aye.
Mr. Kerrigan, aye. 3-0-0. Next item up for bid is we have to. Hold on, we have to. Kate, remind me what the third item is.
To set the date that the arguments for and against are to be
And those would
received.
be ostensibly due by the 21st, but they could be considered at the 18th meeting that we're having if you guys get them done in time, yes?
That is correct.
Mr. Chair, if I may,
You may.
I move pursuant to Lancaster's Special Act of 2004, Town of Lancaster Voter Information, Section 285, and including but not limited to Section 21C of Chapter 59 of MA General Law, to affirm Town Administrator Kate Hodges as the lead proponent for question 1, and Cheryl Garepi, Lancaster Finance Director, as lead opponent for question number 1, for the purposes of preparing said arguments as outlined in the Act, and to require each argument be received no later than Friday, April 21st, midday, to ensure sufficient time to post the notices as outlined in sections 285 and 286 of the Act.
Is there a
Second.
second? Okay. All right. Any discussion?
Yes, Mr. Chair, if I might.
Yes, you may.
My recollection is that at last Monday when we talked about this, we were we thought, or I understood that we needed to have something done by today, so the time frame was tight. I think having Cheryl write the disapproval section puts her into a horrible position, and with the intent. I mean, she's obviously a town employee. I just think it puts her into a difficult position. I think she's perfectly capable of doing this, so there is no disregard to Cheryl, but I think that we should identify somebody who is somebody, I would say, either neutral or a taxpayer resident that doesn't have to do so, since we have till the 21st. Or the 18th, preferably.
So what would the process be to identify said person? It's hard to identify a neutral person in this process.
I would say that you appoint yourself or one of us to do so, designate somebody to do that.
To find the person?
To ask a designee if they would write it, yes. And somebody who is willing to identify that they disapprove of this, or can be neutral and write that.
So hold on, Kate. The board. Well, let me just let this play out for a second. So I've just to clarify what part of what we discussed on Monday was to get this stuff written for today. Which we did, which is great. So it's not as if we were saying stuff on Monday that wasn't for today. So that's good that we got that done. Part of it also was that we task folks right away with starting that process, since it is not an easy document to write, as you've said, Alex, which is why I signed letters asking Kate and Cheryl, after the conversation we had on Monday with this board, to do the same. So I think we're just sort of, I think this is just required under the statute to do what we've already done, which is to designate them, I believe, but I'm not sure. And at that point, I'll either turn.
Well, I agree with you, Steve. And my understanding was that the reason that, because we'd only heard about it the Wednesday prior to our Monday meeting, and I learned about it that day, that there was an urgency, that I thought it was going to be done for today. And the question was discussion, because I had suggested the finance committee, but that there wasn't going to be enough time for them to easily meet and discuss and strike it. So we thought that Cheryl was suggested, who is certainly knowledgeable and, as I said, capable. My concern was that if you wanted to have, as the Secretary of State does, you identify lead parties or something like that. That I think that was the intent of this, was that somebody who would write that. I just put Cheryl and us to a certain extent, but I think it just put Cheryl in a very awkward position.
So I hear you on that. First, the Secretary of State identifies the people who have submitted on either side to write them. We're looking to go out into the five corners and hold a sign saying, pull over and write. I mean, I don't know how to identify someone opposing it. Luckily, every person I've spoken with, for the most part, have said they're supporting it. And I took to heart your comment about the finance committee, which is in part why Kate, of course, administers the entire town, but works most closely with us. Cheryl works most closely with the finance committee, and so I felt like having her there. But the finance committee wouldn't meet your standard either, since 4 out of 5 of them have voted to move this forward and support it. So they wouldn't necessarily meet the standard of someone who opposed it or who were neutral. So I just wanted to get sort of a subject matter expert who can write from a neutral perspective, which I believe Cheryl can. I also believe Kate can, to weigh in on this and to take this role without us, frankly, spending an awful lot of time trying to look hither and yon for someone who will admit to being against it and then write something that meets the standard that's required.
Yeah, I understand the hurdles. I really do.
Okay. Kate, you had raised your hand. Jason, do you have anything before I turn to Kate?
Yeah, I'll just quickly say that I can't think of a better person to write this than Cheryl. Cheryl understands the budget inside and out. She understands the implications forward and back. I believe she is a unbiased voice because she doesn't live in town, right? Like, what better person who's more intimate with the budget to write this, intimate with town finances, than Cheryl. So I'm all for this. She has my utmost confidence. And, you know, it's unfortunate that board members, right, that we haven't figured this out until today. You know, I can't keep up with things we knew and things we didn't know. It feels like we're doing the best we can at this moment in time. And I wasn't around in 2004. I didn't approve those acts. What I can do today is try to put forth the best options for residents possible. And I think Kate and Cheryl are great candidates for that. If board members had ideas of things to do, months ago was the right time to do that. We've been talking about this a long time. I think now we got to do the best job we can with the time we have. And Kate and Cheryl have my utmost confidence. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Yeah. Kate, you had raised your hand.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. On Monday, I had told you that the act says that the select board needs to specify a lead opponent and proponent within 7 days of approving the language. Given that I found out about it on Wednesday, that's why we called an emergency meeting for Monday, which was exactly 48 business hours in order to call it. So you already made that vote on Monday. If you were to designate other people, then you're outside of the 7 days. Ms. Turner, you said at the meeting on Monday that you remembered that language specifically. So I'm just confused about the statement today about changing it because it's not in keeping with what's written here. You only had 7 days from the time that you approved the ballot language to designate 2 persons. And because we didn't have time to sort of solicit interest in who would want to be the opponent or proponents, it defaulted to town staff, not because Cheryl and I want to pick one side or the other necessarily, but because we're both professionals who are aware of the arguments and I think can present them in an impassioned side on both ends.
So, Kate, this is not, Mr. Chair, if I might just respond.
You might, yeah.
Thank you. Kate, this isn't, obviously, we have the utmost faith in you and Cheryl to be able to write this. And you're right that Kate, Chairman Kerrigan is right that you are most knowledgeable about this. So obviously it would be easier for you than many other people. So it's a logical choice. I do remember the acts of 2004, but despite the fact that my husband says I remember every little detail of things he wishes I didn't, I don't remember. That was a time when, we had just promoted an override. It was very controversial. We'd gone through the death of a firefighter in the line of duty. And these were the kind of very charged decisions that served as the impetus. So the language of every single one after it had been through this and it had been through the legislature, as you know, even with our civil service that we are going through and DCAM and all the other language, things go off to the legislature. So we don't see a lot of the details. I do not have any recollection about the specific details of how many days or hours from 20 years ago I do remember the intent and I understand what it is, and it's very similar to what Steve and I and Jason discussed about the just trying to get better communication, similar to what that voter handbook is for the Secretary of State. So I apologize if the 7 days is out. I learned about it on Monday, as did the public, and I saw your language that I thought was good. Yesterday, my only question was about the school district, and I just think having a public employee write for or against is difficult for you and for Cheryl, because obviously people say, well, they benefit from it, or not.
So, hold
So-
on, hold on,
So that was the idea.
hold on. So I just want, I'm, and then I'm going to get to a vote, but I just want to make sure that, give you a chance to clarify the point you just made. It hit my ear that you basically just said, and I want, this is why I'm saying it, just because I don't think this is what you intended to say. That Kate and Cheryl would benefit from the override, therefore it's difficult to ask them, like, the suggestion in that I don't think you were thinking, that you intended to make, was that they would do anything other than their professional best to write a neutral analysis of a for and against vote. And I just want to give you a chance to retract that suggestion, unless that's what you suggested, which
No,
if you do.
Mr. Chairman, I know that anytime I say things, I expect for people to twist it to
No,
that.
I'm not, I'm literally giving you a chance to untangle
So,
it.
no, I'm saying even, I think first it's a policy decision, and we made that policy decision. So it's our responsibility. I think that we should do it. We also hired Kate, and when Cheryl works de facto for us. So, and I have said, and I tried to preface it, and I hope people heard the multiple times in that statement that I said that I know that they are capable and competent. And so rather than put somebody into a bad position where people could second guess their intentions, it's a job to lead, to say the hard things ahead of time. So I didn't want to give the pablum to say this is all puppies and butterflies. I wanted to say I want people to have this and not put Kate into the fire line, or Cheryl. Although I think
Right.
because Kate is doing our job and we've endorsed, and she can write that. I just think it puts especially Cheryl into a really, really bad spot. But
No, I was just wanting to clarify. 'Cause
no,
it seemed as if- yeah.
I've said a million times, and people don't choose to believe what I say, that I can't help that. I can't get into people's minds.
I'm not, no, I know you didn't intend to say that they would therefore not do their professional best, but
Of
I
course,
just want,
and
I know,
ultimately, we get to approve it.
let me
Right?
just finish. Let me just finish. I just wanted to give you the chance to clarify that that's not what you were saying.
Thank you. Thank you for that opportunity. And no, it's not obviously what I meant. And ultimately, we approve it, so it would ultimately be on these. Anyway,
And so I believe we're all set. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Ms. Turner?
this is the motion to have them write that. I'm going to say nay.
Okay, well, okay. Mr. Allison?
Aye.
Mr. Kerrigan, aye. 2-1-0. Kate, is there another motion? I believe there was one more, yes?
Mr. Chair, if I may-
No, I actually, before I need to check to make sure it doesn't have to be a super majority.
Well, it is a supermajority because it's 2/3.
I'm sorry, it needs
Yeah,
to be
well,
unanimous. Can I
While
just,
we're waiting, yeah,
just
go
give me a
ahead.
second?
If
Yeah, go
it
ahead.
has,
While we're waiting on that, Alex, if you're me,
if it has to be unanimous, I can revote it.
but if you're me, then who would you have picked? Knowing we don't have time to go out in the world and recruit and put a LinkedIn page up to ask for who would write
I don't know. I guess I would put the word out through
through how.
town, our email blast or our town Facebook page, both.
And then how do we determine, so just out of curiosity, so 600 people respond, I'll write it. Do I put all the names in the hat?
I would have you as the chair speak to them and designate them and explain what needed to be done. I mean, we have a lot of very capable volunteers, so I think I would recruit it just
We
as
do, yeah. you know,
as we do any other one. I think it would be more broad-based. I think it would be helpful to the cause, to be honest with you. But
to what cause?
to enlightening people, getting people out there. I don't expect that there's going to be a landslide, a lot of people who are coming forward to do that, but there may be some. I don't think, to be honest with you, I've talked to a lot of people who didn't realize we're having an override. So I don't think.
Well, that's our job. Tell everybody what's going on.
I know. So we need to get.
Our job is also sometimes to make, as you pointed out, leadership is about making the hard decisions. And
Right.
we had to make a decision about this in short order because we weren't aware about the 2004 acts until recently. And so we had to take these steps in quick order, which meant tasking our town administrator and finance director with difficult tasks, but they are up
Right.
to snuff.
Right. And I apologize. I didn't speak to the details. I did say that we needed to write many times. I said we needed to write pros and cons. I don't want to
get into that because I don't ever remember saying that. I don't want to get into that, but Kate just
I did look back.
coming back to us.
If it needs to be super.
Hold on a second, Kate.
It's silent, so I think it's fine. It just says 7 days after the determination of the question substance that should appear on the ballot, the town council or city solicitor, which is the select board, shall provide the name of the opponents and proponents. So even if you were to appoint somebody else, it should have been Monday.
All right.
Or
At which
we're
point
not
we
in
did appoint.
compliance.
At which point we did appoint both you and
You did,
or you
correct.
and Cheryl. Jason, go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to make a statement. There's a saying, it's don't let great get in the way of good, right?
Don't
I
make perfect.
think everybody here is doing a really good job based on the circumstances we have. And I just want to go on record that if we come to find out in some hidden act somewhere that this required a unanimous vote and Kate couldn't find it in the last 45 seconds that we've asked her to find it, that this board would be incredibly irresponsible to the town. And I'm flabbergasted that we're at the last hour to work on behalf of the residents. And now we have ideas. The time for ideas is not now. And I cannot be any more frustrated at how this board is acting. And because we're talking about employees, right? We're talking about residents, services, everything. And now's not the time to have an idea. So I've said enough. Thank you.
Okay. Any further discussion on the motion in the second?
The motion is off the floor. It's been voted 2-1.
Oh, right. Sorry. Is there a new motion? That's what we're looking for.
Yeah, Chair, if I may, I move to authorize Town Administrator Hodges to distribute the official notifications for proponents and opponents of question number 1 and record said letters with the town clerk effective today, Friday, April 7th, 2023, and in accordance with the Special Act of 2004, Lancaster voter information.
Is there a second?
Second.
So discussion on the motion. Hearing none. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Ms. Turner,
Aye.
Mr. Allison,
Aye.
Mr. Kerrigan, aye. 3-0-0. Kate, is there any further business to come before this special meeting of the select board? I will say, oh, go ahead.
Sorry, I'm just trying to read it. I know.
Okay.
I think it's fine.
I will say, I take blame for this 29-minute meeting because just before it started, I said, "Oh, this is going to be a quick one," and I jinxed it. So I apologize.
29 is not bad, Steve.
I'll try not to. I'll try not to do that again. All right. Any further business come before this special meeting of the select board?
Yeah, I'd just like to say, Kate, I wish this board was putting you in an easier spot, and I'm grateful that you're trying to solve all of the problems at the last second. And I wish we as members had given you more time. Thank you.
So, Steve,
Yes.
I'd like to thank Kate and Cheryl for taking the unenviable task of doing this. I appreciate that, and I have full faith in their competence of being able to exercise this duty.
Okay. Ditto. Kate, you and Cheryl go forth and do the good work that you do, as well as everybody else in town. All right. Thanks, everybody. Have a happy
Motion to
Friday
adjourn?
and a good week. Yes. Motion to adjourn. Is there a second?
Second.
All's in favor? Ms. Turner, Mr.
Aye.
Allison, Mr.
Aye.
Kerrigan. Have a good day.